Ever wonder how a city's heartbeat could be controlled not by its government, but by shadowy figures in back alleys and smoky rooms? For decades, organized crime families waged brutal wars, fighting for power, territory, and respect. These weren't just street brawls. They were strategic, bloody campaigns that reshaped entire metropolises. Today, we're diving deep into the history of the most infamous mob wars, exploring the rivalries that left a permanent mark on cities like New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia. From the roar of Tommy guns in the Roaring '20s to the calculated betrayals of the modern era, this is the story of how empires of crime were built and how they came crashing down in a hail of bullets and broken loyalties. Let's start in the city that never sleeps, New York. The early 20th century saw the rise of the five families: Bonanno, Colombo, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese. But before they solidified their power, there was chaos. The Castellammarese War of the early 1930s was a turning point. It was a brutal conflict between two powerful Sicilian factions. On one side, you had Joe the Boss Masiria, the old guard leader who saw himself as the boss of all bosses. On the other was Salvatore Maranzano, a challenger from Castellamare del Golfo in Sicily, who wanted to impose a more structured Roman Empire-style hierarchy on the American Mafia. This wasn't just a fight for territory. It was a clash of generations and ideologies. The younger, Americanized mobsters like Charles Lucky Luciano saw both leaders as dinosaurs. They were tired of the old-world feuds that attracted too much police attention and disrupted business. So, Luciano played both sides. In 1931, he orchestrated the assassination of his own boss, Masiria, during a no-legendary lunch meeting. Spare Masiria gone, Maranzano declared himself the new Capo di tutti I capi, or boss of all bosses. But his reign was short-lived. Just a few months later, Luciano sent a team of assassins disguised as government agents to Maranzano's office, eliminating him as well. With the old guard gone, Luciano established the Commission, a governing body for the mob that would mediate disputes and prevent future all-out wars. It was the birth of the modern American Mafia. Forged in the crucible of the Castellammarese War, this new structure brought a period of relative peace and unprecedented prosperity for organized crime, proving that for Luciano, the ultimate power move was ending the war to control the peace. Now, let's head west to the Windy City, Chicago, a place synonymous with one name, Al Capone. During the Prohibition era of the 1920s, the potential profits from illegal alcohol were astronomical, and Chicago became a battleground. Capone, the leader of the Chicago outfit, was locked in a bitter and violent struggle with the North Side Gang, led by the formidable Dion O'Banion and later Jaime Weiss and Bugs Moran. This wasn't just business, it was personal. O'Banion, a florist by day and a ruthless gangster by night, openly disrespected Capone. The conflict escalated dramatically in 1924 when Capone's men gunned down O'Banion in his own flower shop. This act ignited a full-scale war. The Northsiders, now under Jaime Weiss, retaliated with a vengeance. They famously ambushed Capone's motorcade in a drive-by shooting, riddling his car with over 1,000 bullets. Capone miraculously survived by diving to the floor. The violence reached its terrifying peak on February 14, 1929, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Capone's men, disguised as police officers, lined up 7 members of the North Side Gang against a garage wall and executed them in cold blood. Bugs Moran, the intended primary target, was running late and escaped the slaughter. While Capone was conveniently in Florida and had an alibi, the public and law enforcement knew who was responsible. The sheer brutality of the massacre shocked the nation and turned public opinion firmly against Capone, branding him public enemy number 1. The war effectively destroyed the North Side Gang, cementing Capone's control over Chicago's underworld. But it also marked the beginning of his downfall, as the federal government intensified its efforts to bring him to justice. Moving on to Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, has a mob history that's anything but loving. For decades, Philadelphia crime family was ruled by the peaceful and respected gentle Don Angelo Bruno. Bruno believed in diplomacy over violence and focused on traditional rackets, keeping a low profile. He was a member of the National Commission and was known for his ability to resolve disputes without bloodshed. But his old-school approach frustrated younger, more ambitious members of his own family who saw the fortunes being made in narcotics and wanted a bigger piece of the action. This growing resentment boiled over in 1980. Angelo Bruno was assassinated in his car, shot in the back of the head, an ultimate sign of betrayal. His death triggered a bloody and chaotic power vacuum. What followed was a decade of internal warfare. Bruno's consigliere was killed, and his successor, Philip the Chicken Man Testa, lasted less than a year before he was killed by a nail bomb planted on his porch. This led to the rise of the notoriously violent Nicodemo, Little Nicky Scarfo. Under Scarfo, the Philadelphia family descended into a reign of terror. He was paranoid, ruthless, and quick to order the murder of anyone he perceived as a threat or disloyal, including many of his closest associates. The body count rose so high that members began to fear for their own lives. Eventually, several high-ranking members, including Scarfo's own nephew, became government informants to save themselves. Their testimony sent Scarfo and his top lieutenants to prison for life, effectively decimating the family's leadership. The war that began with Bruno's death ultimately led to the near-total collapse of the Philadelphia mob, a stark lesson in how greed and paranoia can destroy an empire from within. Back in New York, even with the commission in place, peace wasn't always guaranteed. The 1980s saw one of the most significant power shifts in Mafia history, orchestrated by the Dapper Don himself, John Gotti. The Gambino family was led by Paul Castellano, a man who preferred the boardroom to the streets. He was the brother-in-law of the previous boss, Carlo Gambino, and he lived in a lavish mansion, distancing himself from the family's street-level operations. This created deep resentment among capos, like John Gotti, a charismatic and ambitious street guy from Queens. Gotti felt that Castellano was out of touch, greedy, and weak. I also knew that Castellano disapproved of his crew's involvement in the drug trade. When federal indictments started coming down and Gotti heard whispers that Castellano was planning to have him taken out, he decided to strike first. On December 16, 1985, as Paul Castellano and his underboss arrived at Sparks Steakhouse in Manhattan for a dinner meeting, Gotti watched from a car across the street as a team of gunmen ambushed them on the sidewalk. Both Castellano and his underboss were killed instantly. It was a brazen public execution, a direct violation of a key commission rule. You do not kill a boss without approval, but Gotti's gamble paid off. He immediately seized control of the Gambino family, the most powerful in the nation. His flashy style, expensive suits, and constant media presence earned him the nickname the Dapper Don, and for a while, he seemed untouchable, beating multiple federal cases and becoming a strange kind of celebrity. However, this high profile was also his undoing. It made him a top priority for the FBI, who eventually used wiretaps and the testimony of his underboss, Sammy the Bull Gravano, to secure a life sentence in 1992. Gotti's war for the throne was successful, but his reign was short, proving that in the world of the mob, the spotlight can be just as dangerous as a bullet. The era of grand-scale mob wars may seem like a thing of the past, a story confined to history books and gangster movies. The combined pressure of federal racketeering laws, internal betrayals, and the decline of traditional rackets has significantly weakened the old hierarchies. But organized crime hasn't disappeared, it's evolved. It's more fractured now, operating in the shadows of cybercrime, international smuggling, and smaller, more discreet enterprises. The bloody rivalries that once controlled entire cities have taught us a powerful lesson about the nature of power, ambition, and the inevitable consequences of a life built on violence. The ghosts of Mafia, Capone, and Gotti still linger in the streets they once ruled. A reminder of a time when mob wars weren't just fiction, but a brutal, city-shaping reality. Thanks for watching. If you found this dive into the criminal underworld fascinating, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most compelling stories. Let us know in the comments which mob story you find the most captivating. See you in the next one.